gonna give everybody a second to pop in. I'm so excited, y'all. I went 2 minutes early. I can't help it. I can't help it. I can't help it. I can't help it. I'm gonna give y'all the 2 minutes to go on and pop in. Let y'all see that I'm live. Y'all, this day, oh my God, it's like Christmas for me all over again. I promise you, it's like Christmas right now. But you know, I came on 2 minutes early, so I'm gonna give people until 8 o'clock to jump on. Y'all, I'm so excited. I'm just extremely excited tonight. I really am. Y'all can see my face. Y'all can see the glow. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Y'all know I've been pushing the return of Life Unmothered since last week. So y'all know class started at 8 p.m. sharp today. I just want to say thank you, God. I just thank God for his grace and his mercy. I really do, for keeping me. Life Unmothered, oh my God, is back. It's back. It's back. It's back. But however, we are going to get into some topics tonight. But I just want to introduce myself for the newcomers that's going to be in my tribe of people, you know, and also for the ones that's coming back that was with me and rocking with me 4 years ago, y'all. So a little bit of backstory of why I stopped 4 years ago, you know. So what it was is that, you know, my life took a drastic turn, like for real. So I just had a lot of things that was in my life that were clouding my judgment, you know, very much so. It's clouding my judgment. So I had to figure out, you know, what I wanted. You know, did I want this life that I created for myself, which was not good at all? Or did I want the life that God showed me, you know, 4 years back? So I want the life that God has showed me 4 years back, because he showed me bigger and greater things, you know. So that's why I'm here. So I did have to step down from my platform to get, you know, my life in order, but it's okay. And that's all I'm gonna say about that 4 years ago, because I refuse to give the enemy any power over this platform anymore. No more. So, but that is who I am. I created Life Unmothered 4 years ago out of pain. It was strictly out of pain that I created this platform, A Life Unmothered. And it was because of the childhood trauma that I experienced growing up. It wasn't fun. It was very hurtful. And I carried that pain with me for years. Why? Because I didn't understand what trauma actually was. Nobody do. Nobody tells us when we're growing up that we are experiencing trauma. Nobody says that to us, right? So in order for us to understand, because a lot of things got passed down to us unconsciously, and we are looking for people to blame for our pain, for our hurts, but in actuality, it's the trauma patterns that has been passed down through generations, y'all. So we can't blame our parents. We can't blame how their action was when it came to raising us. We can't blame that. What we can blame is the patterns. And so it's our responsibility to understand these patterns so that we can cut ties and make a disruption within the patterns for our lineage, because we having children, you know, and our children deserve peace, sanity, love, healthy love, you know. So we have to understand what those patterns is. So that's why Life Unmothered came. God gave me this vision of Life Unmothered. And what I do mainly is I break down definitions pertaining to childhood trauma and abuse, because who talks about this? Nobody. And even me being absent for 4 years, I see people periodically talking about trauma, but nobody actually break the different definitions down pertaining to trauma. You know, so in order for you to understand something, in order for you to break a cycle, in order for you to break a pattern, you have to understand the definition. That's just like a teacher teaching you a subject and he tell you to go do the research. So in order for you to understand the subject that he's teaching, you have to do the research. So I am here doing the research so that I can pass it on to help you establish a healthier you, free from trauma, free from childhood abuse, and helping yourself and your inner child to gain freedom. You know, because with trauma, it's stored in our body, y'all. Trauma is stored in the body. And unless you address the trauma, it just ages with you. That's it. The trauma will age with you. Me personally, I refuse to take this trauma with me until my next lifetime. I don't know what the next lifetime, none of us know what the next lifetime is, but however, I refuse to take this into the next lifetime. So I'm going to read you something that I wrote, and I do have my notes in front of me. This show normally lasts about 30 minutes, and if it get good, we might push it out into an hour, you know. So but you will see me looking down and reading periodically on paper. So this this is what I wrote. This is something that I wrote, and I'm very passionate about the subject that I teach. This show was born from pain that I never deserved and the healing I fiercely fought for. I know what it's like to be unmothered. I grew up without nurture, protection, or the love I needed. To be raised in trauma told me to stay silent and expect to smile through it all. My mission, my life's purpose, is to shine the light on childhood trauma and abuse and pain that most people are scared to talk about. The exposure to wounds we were taught to hide, and help others to raise from theirs as well. This is more than just a show. This is a movement, a mirror, and a safe house for truth. It's for the ones who were told to get over it, but never had a chance to process it. And for the inner child still wanting to be seen. Because healing isn't just personal. Y'all, healing is generational. And it's not just healing for me. I'm healing for my lineage and helping others to do the same. So if you ever felt unseen, unloved, and unmothered, just understand when you see me, you are not alone. And we're going to walk and we're going to heal together. So this show, y'all, is not just a moment, but it's a movement. And it's passionate to my heart. It really is. This show is very passionate to my heart of what I do and what I teach. So we're going to kind of jump right on in, because what I want to do with this first episode, and because I'm going straight back like I never left the beat, y'all. And my seasoned followers, they know exactly what I do. You know, I pull definitions, I read them. Everything that I discuss, everything that I talk about is pertaining to my life. Now, I want to make this clear before I even get started with my show. My show is not for everybody, and I'm not trying to reach the mass majority, okay? But if you can relate to what I'm talking about, and you can relate to these subjects that I'm breaking down, these definitions, then you are my tribe of people, and we locked in, straight up. You know what I'm saying? And we're here to gain wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Because in the scripture, it says, my people perish because the lack of knowledge. My people perish. That's what God said. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. Y'all, this the knowledge that we need. This right here is the knowledge that we need to stop perishing, because we have so many people that are emotionally unavailable. They cannot control their emotions. You know, they get triggered so fast because they have no clue what's going on inside of them. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. So we know that trauma gets passed down if we don't address it, right? We know that trauma came from generations before us that we had no clue, but we were stuck with the wounds, right? So I did some research, and this is the research that it says, right? So 20 to 30 years, this is generally the time it takes for children to grow up and have children of their own, right? Generational trauma, transmission of trauma effects across generations can last for multiple generations, pertaining for centuries if left unaddressed, y'all. Trauma can linger. Trauma can linger for centuries, it said, if left unaddressed. Centuries. Y'all, I didn't look up how long a century is, you know, but if generational trauma can last 20 to 30 years, that right there, that's a long time. That's a long time to be passing on trauma. Do you understand, between the age of 20 to 30 that some people can have 4 to 5 children? 4 to 5 children. And they're dealing with trauma. So they're birthing their children into their trauma. So each child is 20 to 30 years of a generation. Each child. That is a lot, y'all. And we are struggling to understand trauma. We struggling. We really struggle with this. You know, our culture struggles with understanding trauma. Because why? Because we done normalized dysfunction. We normalized it. You know, and everything looks great. Everything. I wasn't raised in trauma. I wasn't raised, you know, I don't have a problem or issue, but yet you can't regulate your emotions. You barely even know what to do when you have a meltdown or breakdown or whatever the case may be, because you done suppressed so much that you don't even know when it's coming out and who is going to come out on, right? You're suppressing, right? So, like I told y'all, when I look down, I'm reading, because I did my research, and I'm reading off of what they researched. This was researched before I even came along, right? So I'm just bringing awareness of what I researched, okay? Because at this time, it's time to make it make sense in your life. What is your patterns? What did you develop from your childhood that you passed on to your children unconsciously, though, right? Because sometimes we tell ourselves, okay, I'm not going to do this like my parent. I'm not going to do that like my parent, which particularly sometimes we do that, right? Like me personally, I told myself that I wasn't going to call my daughter a bitch. And that's exactly what I didn't do. My daughter never heard me call her that. But that's exactly what I got, So those are the things that we can say that we're going to do different than our parent. But unconsciously, y'all, there are some things unconsciously that we still pass down to our children regardless of anything. Because what foundation do we have when it comes to parenting, right? We parent how we were parented majority of the time because we didn't have another foundation. When you had children, you parent your child how your mom parent you. Your parent you. That's our foundation. That's our form. And then we'll branch off from that and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do a trickle of this and a trickle of that because this is how this made me feel. But unconsciously, majority of that stuff, y'all doing the same thing. We doing the same thing. That's just what it is. So this says trauma isn't just what happened to you. Trauma isn't just what happened to you. It's about what didn't happen. It's not about what happened to you. It's about what didn't happen to you. Trauma can be the absence of safety, love, and nurturing. It leaves emotional wounds not from what was done, but from what was never received, y'all. Your body doesn't forget the silence. Your body doesn't forget the abandonment. Your body does not forget the loneliness. It adapts it. But survival isn't the same as healing. Understand that. We are in survival mode, y'all. It's not the same as healing. Healing, we got to go back. We got to unpack. We got to go back and unpack. And I know a lot of times people say we older because a lot of times people get drawn to me that's in their 40s. I'm 47, okay? I'm 47 years old. So I typically address 30, 40, 50, and 60-year-olds and some 70-year-olds for real, but they say, hey, I'm past that. My mom gone. She no longer here. But in actuality, you are still carrying those patterns that your mother left or whoever your caregiver was, father, whatever the case. I say life unmothered because I was raised by my mother. I was not raised by my father. So majority of everything I got from my mom. Now, not to say, like I said, I'm not blaming her because she was once a child too. And she got what her mom gave her. And so on, and so on, and so on. Generations and generations of trauma being passed. Nobody was there to explain this to no child. Who just sits down and explains to a child that they're suffering from trauma at the age of 5 and 6 years old? I got my trauma when I went to therapy. I had to go all the way back till I was 6 years old. 6. That's where my initial trauma started, from separation anxiety. I didn't know this. And I didn't start going to therapy until my 40s, right? So separation anxiety, I had never heard that word. What is that? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the definitions that's pertaining to trauma is not heard of or even talked about in our community. So how do we fix this? How do we fix, the crime? How do we fix all of the violence that's going on? How do we fix that? We have to go deeper than the violence, because the violence is just the surface. What's up under that? What's making you triggered? What's making you angry like that to want to go do something or, to somebody else? What does that look like? So in order to go back and understand what that looks like, you have to reveal what's been concealed. And that's for real. You got to reveal what's been concealed. Even though it's going to be painful, it's going to be painful, you know. But like the saying goes, the truth will set you free. You got to put a voice to your trauma. What are you holding in? What is those things that you never talked about that's so uncomfortable for you to even speak of? What is that? What do that look like for you, right? So you didn't get protection, nurturing, or safety you deserve, and your body never forgot it. Because trauma stores in your body. Once you start experiencing trauma and dysfunction in your family, that stuff starts to get stored in your body. It starts to mess with your muscles. It starts to mess, they say fatigue, muscle tension, all of this stuff. If you didn't address your childhood traumas, these are some of the symptoms that you will develop because you have it stored in your body, right? Who tell our community this? Who says that? Nobody. Nobody. So what is the absence of safety, right? So what is the absence of safety? Unmet needs can cause just as much harm as active abuse. Did you hear that? Unmet needs can cause just as much harm as active abuse. So what are the unmet needs that you didn't get from your childhood? What that look like for you? What it looked like for me is that I didn't get any hugs. I never got a hug, ever. Never got a hug. I never heard the words, I love you. I never heard that. Those were the unmet needs that I felt that I needed when I was younger. Validation from my own mother. I felt like I needed that, but it's something that I just never got, So what is it that, what does that look like for you, right? So the body remembers. The nervous system learns to expect danger. Your nervous system is always on expecting danger to come. Just even when there's no danger around, you are just tuned to expect danger to come. Because you have trauma stored in your body. It shows up as hypervigilance, people pleasing, and emotional numbness. Y'all, look, I had all that. All of that was me. Especially people pleasing. That was like, because I felt that if I put other people's needs first, my feelings wouldn't get hurt. I had to take care of other people's needs before I took care of my own. So, and then I wanted other people to like me. So I went above and beyond to please them in order to get them to like me, because I didn't receive none of that. So, that's how it showed up for me, right? So anxiety, overfunctioning, and trouble trusting. Anxiety, overfunctioning, and trouble trusting. Not because you're broken, but because you adapted to survival. You are adapted to the survival mode that you created for yourself in order to feel safe. That's what that is, right? So, oh my God, y'all. So it's so much, but with trauma, what does trauma do to your body, y'all? It rewires your brain. It rewires your brain when you're dealing with trauma. Whew. It keeps the nervous system in survival mode, right? Fight, flight, freeze, or shut down mode. That's what survival, being in survival mode does to you. Chronic anxiety or emotional numbness, right? And when it lives in your body, like I told you, it's stored in your body. When it lives in your body, it's muscle tension, shadow breathing, and digestive issues. That's just what it is. It's what it is. So we have to understand where this came from. Why is trauma in my body? What patterns am I holding on? What issues am I suppressing within that I don't want to talk about because I feel like I outgrown it, but in actuality, you didn't. You know, you still got a wound. You still wounded because it's coming out in your raising your children. It's coming out in your partnership relationships. It's coming out at work. It's coming out. It might not come out as a full-blown rage, but it's coming out. It's coming out. So we going to address these issues, right? So what does unhealed trauma do to your body, right? So, you know, we got unhealed trauma. I feel like all of us in our community got unhealed trauma. Why? Because we don't discuss this. Everything in our household is swept up under the rug, y'all. We're not entitled to speak about nothing. We are conditioned to be seen and not heard. That's what it is. You shut up, you go sit down, you stay out of grown folks' business, but yet you seeing stuff. You know what I'm saying? You seeing stuff and you holding it in, you can't talk about it. That's affecting you. That is affecting you. So what does unhealed trauma does to your body? I'm sorry. So it stores as chronic tension, inflammation, and emotional disconnection, right? It impacts cortisol, sleep, digestion, heart rate, emotional control, and you lose. Let me tell you something. This research says right here, you lose access to rest, joy, and peace. We lose that holding trauma. We lose that. We don't have access to rest, joy, or peace because our body is in survival mode and we always on 10. Our body is always on 10, right? So we can always heal from trauma. You can definitely heal from trauma. And that's why I'm here to explain the breakdowns of what trauma is. You know, right now, I really want to hone in on what trauma is. I really want to just dive in deep to get a full understanding of what trauma is, because you can have PTSD and not even experience an event, a war. You know what I'm saying? Like how they say you develop PTSD if you're in a war or experience a traumatic event. Yes, you can. However, you can still develop PTSD from neglect, abandonment, emotional abuse, and those things. So you can still develop PTSD, right? And a lot of us, we have it. I have it. You know, I ain't never been to the war, but I developed PTSD from my childhood growing up, as well to the age of 16 years old, because 16 years old is when I got raped. So I was raped at 16 years old. So that was a traumatic experience for me as well. So I had trauma on top of trauma. Okay? That's just what it is. I had trauma on top of trauma. Nobody told me that I was dealing with trauma from the age from when you born. You're born into trauma. If your mama ever had depression issues, if she ever had been abandoned, neglected, you know, any of those things that I'm explaining, if your mother had those things while she was carrying you, you are birthed into that. I had no idea, because I always told people, you're not born with trauma until a doctor actually explain that to me, that you are born with trauma. And if you dealt with any of those issues that I'm speaking of, and it gets deeper, we gonna go deeper, trust me. This is just a surface. This is just my first time back on Life Unmothered in 4 years. This just a surface right here. Trust and believe. But it gets deeper than that. So if you experience anything, if you keep on following me, if you experience anything that I'm talking about when you was carrying your children, you birth your children into that. I know it's hard. It's hard to hear, but it's the truth. So your baby was already birthed in trauma. Okay? So let's explain how trauma gets passed through generations, y'all. Just what I was talking about, birthing your children into trauma. Let's get into how trauma is passed through generations, right? So trauma is transmitted not just through stories, but through silence, behavior, and biology. What? Okay. Through behaviors, parents that's in survival mode passes on fear, they pass on control, and they pass on emotional suppression, right? So you say, because I said, what is emotional suppression? I want to know what emotional suppression is, right? Because I had never heard of that word. And 9 times out of 10, like I said, when I break this stuff down, a lot of our people have never heard of these words. So what is emotional suppression? Emotional suppression is an act of actively pushing away or hiding one's feelings, both internally and externally, to avoid experience or expressing them. It is a coping mechanism where individuals try to negate the existence of uncomfortable emotions, while it can offer temporary relief for distress. Periodically in challenging social situations, long-term emotional suppression can have detrimental effects on mental and physical health. So, when I told you that your parents passed this on, parents that was in survival mode, and see, a lot of times our parents didn't talk to us. So we didn't know that they was in survival mode. You know, what our parents say? I did the best I could. You know, I did the best I could with y'all. We don't know their story. We don't know, a lot of our parents, like myself, I don't know nothing about her childhood. Nothing. So for me to understand that my mom was in survival mode, I don't know that. But now that I do, now that I'm doing my research, I understand that my mom was in her survival mode when she was carrying me, and she passed on fear, control, and emotional suppression, y'all. Okay? They pass on trauma through belief systems, meaning they'll tell you, don't cry, be strong, and therapy is for the weak. Now, how many of us hear that all the time? Don't go to therapy. You don't need all them people in your business. Let me tell y'all something. I tried to fix myself, I guess. I tried to understand my problems, understand what was going on. My mind was running 24/7 nonstop. I became a workaholic just to get my mind off of my life problems. And that's one coping mechanism too when you facing trauma, is that you become a workaholic. I became a workaholic. It's addiction, workaholic, sexaholic, eating disorder. It's a lot of coping mechanisms to deal with childhood trauma, okay? Biting the nails, pulling of the hair, sucking the thumb. It's so many that's dealing with childhood trauma and abuse, okay? So they passed on through their behavior, they passed on through their beliefs, they passed on emotional roles, y'all. This is number 3, emotional roles. This is what the parents pass down to you. Now, I really want y'all to pay attention, because these listings that I'm giving you, you can see if you carry in these patterns. If it was established with you from your parent, and then you passing it on to your child, right? So the peacekeeper, right? The black sheep, the parentified child carrying unresolved pain. So you either the peacekeeper, the black sheep, the parentified child carrying unresolved pain. Now, what is parentified child? And we're going to break that down too. It's so much to trauma when I'm telling y'all. It's so much to trauma. But a parentified child is a child that reversed roles with their parents. So you became the parent and your parent became the child. So you had to take care of your parents' needs. They looking for you to take care of their needs. Not only are you taking care of their needs, you taking care of their children. Your sibling, you taking care of them, playing a parent role with them. Parentified child. That's what it's called, y'all. So, through the body, children inherit, y'all listen to this. Children inherit emotional dysregulation, anxiety, dissociation, even without knowing the full story. Like I told y'all, a lot of us don't know our parents' story. But we got passed down wounds. We got passed down trauma, wounds, pain. And we don't even know the full story. But yet we dealing with this. We holding on to this. And not only that, we don't understand this. So we passing it along to the next generation, which lasts 20 to 30 years. And within that 20 or 30 years, baby, your baby probably done had 2, 3, maybe even 4, 5 kids. Who knows? I don't know. One is enough. That's 20 to 30 years. One child is enough. But just imagine you got 2 or 3. Each child holding 20 to 30 years worth of generational trauma. Because you don't know that you got a pattern that you unconsciously passing down to your children. Let's keep going, y'all. So it says, you didn't imagine it and you didn't have to carry it forever. What was inherited can be healed. That's what it says. What was inherited, it can be healed. First step to healing is acknowledgement, though. And that's one of the hardest things that people, they can't grasp. Like that accountability, that just, you know what I'm saying? It's just that accountability. What I tell people, you can't change your past. What happens has happened. You can't go back. But you can do it different this day forward. And it's with these definitions. It's understanding your patterns. And it's taking initiative to be the first one. Maybe you are the first one in your family, because I was the first one in my family to walk away. I had to walk away. Understand? So I've been gone from my family about 12 years now. And I mean, no calls, no visits, no seeing, no talking, no anything. But I had to do that for my peace. Okay? I had to do that for my peace. Not only did I have to do that for my peace, I had to do that for my child. And now that she got a son, I thank God I did that for my grandson. So now we're cutting the tie to that, we're cutting the tie to that rotten. It's rotten. That's all it is. It's just a rotten a rotten root. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? So I had to cut ties to that rotten root because I didn't want that for my lineage. I don't. I want healthy. I want happiness. I want love. And I had to start with me. It had to start with me. So is it going to start with you? Who is it going to start with? Because 10, 15 years down the line, you cannot tell me because of these patterns that you unconsciously pass to your children, that they're not going to end up in a mental institution, on drugs, in prison, whatever the case may be. But if you start now to understand your patterns, to break the cycle in your lineage, then maybe, just maybe it's hope. Maybe it's hope there, y'all. And I'm so passionate about what I talk about because I had to be my own example. I had to be the example in order for me to come forth and do the calling that God has over my life. I had to be the example in order to tell y'all that it works. It works when you do it different, okay? But you got to know how to do it different. And we, in our community, we don't talk about this. It's so taboo. It's so taboo. And I hate that saying where people say, I ain't finna go to therapy. I ain't finna go talk to nobody. Let me tell y'all something. When I went to therapy, that was the best decision that I ever made for myself. The reason why I say that is because that therapist who was that therapist who professional was dealing with trauma patients. And I tell y'all, if y'all decide to ever go to therapy, make sure you get a therapist that profession is trauma. Okay. So, but anyway, that therapist gave me the tools that I needed. I wasn't getting that from my friends. I wasn't getting that from my family. They didn't know. You know what I'm saying? We sit and we vent to our friends about what's going on in our lives and everything like that. What they gonna give you to make you feel better? A blunt and a drink? And tell you, oh man, it's gonna be better? Or tell you, oh man, it's all right, don't worry about it. Allowing you to suppress that even more? No. It's time that we go to therapy, upchuck that. You gotta pluck the root, baby. It's a root there that needs to be plucked. Okay? So, and like I said, it's like an onion. My sister, she teaches on this. I love her so much. It's like an onion. When you get up in there, you got to peel them layers back on that onion. And what you do when you peeling an onion or cutting the onion, you start crying. Because it's going to hit. It's going to hit, but you got to get to that core root. You got to get to that core root in order for you to heal. You got to reveal it in order to heal it. Okay? That's my saying. I'm going to get a shirt. Y'all made this shirt too, so if y'all want one. Anyway, let's keep going, y'all. So, it's inherited. Okay? But it can be healed. So, what generational trauma looks like? What does generational trauma look like? It's passed silently. I'm going to sit on that, marinate for that minute. Generational trauma is passed silently through fear, silence, shame, and emotional roles such as the peacekeeper and the black sheep, right? Through beliefs and behaviors. We don't cry. They tell us that. We don't cry. Love is earned, and we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. Okay? It says emotional inheritance, meaning children carry wounds they don't understand. Children carry wounds that they don't understand. Y'all, this is so deep right now. This is so deep right now, right? So I'm gonna tell you. So roles get assigned and recycled in families, y'all. The roles get assigned and recycled. And what do I mean when I say that? In families with trauma, people unconsciously take on survival roles. These roles help children cope in unsafe and unstable environments. But in adulthood, they often keep us stuck in patterns we did not choose. Didn't I tell y'all? We carrying patterns. Okay? These roles didn't start with you, but they live in you. That's so deep. The roles didn't start with you, but they live in you, right? So being a peacekeeper, I'm going to break down these roles, okay? Being the peacekeeper, silence themselves to avoid conflicts or tension. Now, put yourself, you might be all of these because, baby, I was all of them, okay? I was all of them. But, you know, kind of see what you carry. See what you carry to make it make sense, okay? Try to keep everyone calm, even at the expense of your own needs. Avoid speaking up, setting boundaries, or expressing anger. Now, setting boundaries in our households, that didn't exist. It just didn't exist, but it can exist now. It can exist now. Grows up to become a people pleaser or conflict avoider. That was may struggle with self-expression or feel invisible in relationships. Wow. Okay. The overachiever. Are you an overachiever? This means that, you know, you dealing with some form of childhood trauma. Okay. Believes love must be earned through success, performance, or perfection. Ooh. That just brings me back. That brings me back because that was me with my mom. You know what I'm saying? I had to perform. I had to become a mini her in order to feel a inkling of something like love, I guess. You know, I had to perform. I had to be perfect. I had to I had to do the whole image. When I say a lot of people put their family image over their own pain. I'll let you sit on that. They struggle to rest, relax, or feel enough without productivity. May feel failure, judgment, or rejection. Often burnt out, anxious, or disconnected from emotions. So all of these right here, that's for the overachiever, okay? The parentified child is what I was talking about earlier. Takes care of siblings or emotionally supports adults. Acts like the little adult in the home due to absence, addictions, or unstable parents. Now that's deep, y'all. You know, because we see them little kids that's about 7, 8, 9. And what we say, girl, they got old soul. They been here before. They that's that trauma that done set in. That's that generational right there. Okay. So let's keep going. So grows up feeling overly responsible for others, may become a fixer, a rescuer, or a overgiver in adulthood, okay? Struggles to receive care, set boundaries, or prioritize yourself. So you struggle to ask for help. That's me all day long. You know what I'm saying? That was me all day long. Struggling to ask for help, burning myself out because I'm an overachiever. I can do it myself. No. That's some form of coping mechanisms from childhood trauma that you have resolved. Okay? The black sheep, and it's me all day long. I'm all of these, but baby, the black sheep, it is for me. Okay? Get blamed, judged, or rejected for being different or difficult. Often the one who questions toxic family dynamics, seen as rebellious, dramatic, or too sensitive, carries the pain of exclusion, but also the generational healing. You also carry the generational healing. Do you understand? The black sheep also carries the generational healing. Okay? May experience deep loneliness, but holds the power to break the cycles. Do you understand? I chose to be different because I said I was tired. I was tired of talking about people. I was tired of talking about my family. I was tired of being in the middle. I was tired of being judged for stuff that I didn't do. I was just tired of trying to be perfect. You know, that was just exhausting. It was exhausting to me. Okay? The one who always questions the toxic family dynamics, right? So I was the first one that came forward and say, this ain't right. This ain't right. Then once I started questioning stuff, I got pushed away. I got alienated. I'm just like, what? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm questioning this toxic behavior. Wow. But like I said, I've been away from my entire family for almost 12 years now, and I stand 10 toes down on what I believe in. Nobody gonna shake that from me, you know. But you know, those are the roles that get assigned and recycled in a toxic family dynamics, right? So emotional repetition. It says emotional repetition, patterns of abuse, silence, and neglect repeat. Neglect is repeat. Okay? Roles like peacekeeper, overachiever, black sheeps are passed down, right? Inheriting roles and emotions, feeling guilt, feeling fear, or responsibilities that aren't yours, right? So, I felt guilty in the beginning when God told me to open my mouth. I didn't want to. I was scared as hell. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew the backlash that was going to come my way. And I got every bit of it. Boy, them Bible verses, thy honor, thy mother, thy father, and it was thrown at me left and right. You understand? But God also looked out for us too, because he said, parents, do not anger your children. Don't just let the scriptures fit where you want them to be, baby. Read the whole thing. Read the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So I stood 10 toes down on coming forward to speak my truth. So breaking the cycles. It says healing breaks the cycles. Feelings, questioning, speaking, and reparenting yourself changes your lineage. That's what it says. It changes that. So, become aware of your patterns and do the healing work that others could not do. So, y'all, we have to do the work. We have to do the work. Even when it hurts, you still got to do the work. You still got to go back. You still have to touch those wounds. You still got to comfort your inner child. You know, him, her, is screaming. They screaming for you to come back. You know, you are the key to unlock your own chains. You are. And ain't nobody going to come save you but you. That's true. I had to learn all of that on my own. But I was willing to do the work. I was willing to do that, you know, for my sanity, for number one. Nobody else is going to give you peace but you. But you got to know how to give yourself peace. You know, and it's learning, it's truly learning these definitions, y'all. It's truly learning these definitions. So I normally keep my show 30 minutes long, but if it get good like tonight, you know, I go an hour long, you know, but I don't go over an hour. So, but I do want to read you a few more things and then I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. So it says that triggers, y'all, we're gonna talk about triggers because I need y'all to understand what triggers your emotions. What does that look like for you? When somebody says something, when somebody do something, when you smell something, you know, you triggers, they can happen. They can let me read this. It says triggers and flashbacks. The body can be triggered by sights, smells, sounds, or sensitivities that resemble the original trauma, y'all. It resembles the original trauma. So my triggers personally, I couldn't watch no rape scenes. I couldn't, you know, read about no rape scenes or anything like that because that will really, really trigger me. You know what I'm saying? When I walked away from my family 12 years ago, what triggered me before I actually understood my triggers and was able to go to therapy to work on my triggers, what I understood, what I couldn't see to trigger my triggers was I couldn't see, be on Facebook for Mother's Day, you know, seeing people, oh, happy Mother's Day, I love you. I couldn't do that. You know, I couldn't do that. So I stayed off those particular days and stuff. I stopped celebrating holidays for a long time, you know, until my daughter reminded me, like, Mom, you are my mom. You are my mom. So, you know, I had to understand that regardless of the fact of what happened to me, that I still have my own family that I have to be healthy for. So, me and my daughter, we definitely had a conversation and it was hard. The conversation that I had with my daughter was very hard. I didn't know that, and like I'm telling y'all, you know, everything that I talk about, I experienced. So I did not know that I was passing on trauma to my daughter. I didn't know. I thought that it was normal. I thought that it was normal, okay? Now, like I told y'all, like I'm saying now, I don't live in a space of trauma anymore. I'm still healing though, but I don't live in that space. So I recant my story. I don't relive it. But the days that I talk about it on every Thursday that I come forward, you know, it's still, I'm human. I feel that. You know what I'm saying? So I am very transparent when it comes down to the things that I talk about, because I want you to understand how it affected me. But I don't live there anymore. But I'm willing to touch the wound that I had every Thursday so that I can make awareness of the trauma that is being passed down through generations. So I'm sacrificing that. So if I stop to breathe, to take a pause, y'all got to understand, I'm human. I'm human. So, but anyway, me and my daughter, we had a conversation. So I did not know that I was passing on trauma to my daughter until she was like 14, 15, 14, something like that. The reason how I knew is because she ran away from home, y'all. And I'm like, at 16, I ran away from home, right? And that's when I got violated, right? So when she ran away from home, it scared me to death. And it made me take a step back to say, I knew why I was running, but why is she running? because I said that I wasn't going to do this and that like my parent. I said those things and I didn't do those things that my parent did to me. I didn't do. But it was those unconscious patterns, baby. It was them unconscious patterns that I didn't know that I was passing down. That's what made her run from me. So I had to accept, acknowledge, and take accountability for the things that I had done to my children. To my child, I'm sorry. It's okay to apologize to your child. It's okay, because you are displaying behaviors that you have no clue that is hurting your baby. None. You know, but it's unconscious, and you think it's okay because we don't normalize dysfunction, but it's not okay. You know, so I thank God for his ability to allow me to sit in that moment to ask myself, what am I passing down to make my child want to run this away from the safety of me? I'm supposed to be her safe zone. I'm supposed to be the safe that she needs, but she's running from me. Why? That was my bubble. I had to pop that why. So I thank God that I was able to pop that white bubble. And it was hard because I had to sit in it, baby. One thing you cannot deny is if somebody tell you that you hurt them in some type of way, you can't say that you didn't. They're telling you what you did. You gotta sit in that, and you gotta accept that, you know. So, but with that being said, y'all, I'm so appreciative for the people that jumped on live, that watched, that was on time, 8 o'clock sharp, y'all. I told y'all 8 o'clock sharp. I don't even play, but I did jump on 2 minutes early because it was like Christmas to me today. You know, coming back to do Life Unmothered. This is my love. This is my passion. This is my calling. And so I hope that I inspire and, you know, just push people to recognize their own patterns that you instill, that you got instilled, that you may potentially be passing on unconsciously. What does that look like for you? So we're going to be doing some journaling. You know, it's okay to ask questions because I like a rebuttal. You know, we can go back and forth, you know, and I'm going to answer your questions as much as possible. But baby, when I tell y'all that I'm dive deep in being an advocate for breaking generational patterns, baby, look at all this. Research. And I'm doing that every week because I care for my people. I care for us, and I believe that we can get it right for our children, for the next generation, and for ourselves. You know, it's time to live outside of trauma. We can do that. We can do that. We don't have to live in trauma, y'all. So I'm gonna leave with one more thing, y'all, and I am so out of here. Okay. Yeah. So it says, Healing starts with noticing the body signals with curiosity and not shame. Don't be shamed, y'all. Don't be shamed. You got to give yourself grace for some of the stuff that you didn't know that you was carrying, okay? Gently reconnecting to the present moment with breath, grounding, and safe relationships. Reteaching the body that now you are safe. Now you are safe. Especially if you're not in that environment no more. You know, but we have to teach, and we got to train our body to know that we are in a safe space, and it's okay to start healing. And another thing, don't wait on an apology. Don't wait on somebody to acknowledge your pain to even start your healing, because you will never get that. You'll never get it. So, and I'm just being honest, majority of the people that's waiting for somebody to apologize to them, to acknowledge their hurt. How long have you actually been waiting on that? How long? Nobody coming to save you but you. So with that being said, y'all, I am out of here. I thank you and I appreciate you for tuning in to the return of Life Unmothered. Y'all, it's going to be every Thursday at 8 o'clock sharp. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And if it's something on this live that hit you and resonated with you, I ask that you share this out, because maybe that it can hit and resonate with somebody else. But until then, y'all, peace, love, and blessing. And understand that you are seen, you are validated, and you are loved. Until next week, Thursday, y'all.